Ain't gonna dream no more on the Dream Warrior.
Recorded live from the dungeon, this is the Dream Warrior Review, and I'm Kurt Thomas.
And coming at you live from the hills of Tennessee,
I'm Mick Strawn.
Mick Strawn.
So are you ready for the return of COVID-19?
Do you know what? I was daydreaming about something. Oh, go ahead. You look like you had something really important to say.
Well, you know what? I was going to say something interesting. I'm curious as to how game shows and talk shows are going to come back, right?
That's what my daydream was. I was like, can I picture this game show with masks and social distancing?
Right. And, you know, that's, I kind of get this feeling that that we're going to have to stick with Trevor Noah in a box for a while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, especially coming out of New York.
Yeah.
But I also have a feeling that, you know, we're kind of in for another big sweep.
Yeah.
And thank God for Twitter users.
Right.
What the Z generation, right?
Yep.
Z generation pulled off on our president was masterful. I mean, it's funny because this has been a damn interesting year, but that's got to be one of the most interesting parts of the interesting year is buying tickets. Jesus Christ, guys, that's brilliant. I just it's it does my heart good because I'm from a generation and from a time and from a people that that, you know, kind of were not rioting, but were you know, I've been through a lot of these things. 68 riots, the Watts riots, the Watts riots, which were way before that, and the riots in 68, and then on and on and on. And I don't care what anybody says, it takes a lot to change the momentum of what's going on, and those things did change the momentum of what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, I remember being in LA through all of the unrest that went on in the 80s and 90s. And it was just really, really interesting. I remember standing on a corner while making, with Oli Sassoon, while making the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And this is just crystallized into my head. We're standing on a corner, and the cop's standing there, and Oli, the director, walks up to the cop and he pulls this huge gun out of his shorts. You know, he's wearing like shorts, and he pulls his shirt up and pulls this huge gun out, and he goes, so what are you shooting? And the next thing you know, half the damn crew is out standing there, you know, comparing their guns. And I'm thinking to myself, now with that particular group, with the particular group that was doing it, I was thinking to myself, you know, we would most likely to be going down in friendly fire, except for the cop. The rest of them, I was like, oh my God. I want a bulletproof vest from my own crew.
Right. Wow.
But also, I've been on shows where they, as a matter of fact, the show Kazam,
yes,
actually was in the middle of a riot also. I was on Space Rangers, right behind a Fedco building that was completely destroyed. and and literally as people went by, we were handing out pizzas.
Right.
And we gave a pizza. I mean, we were trying to get rid of like 30 pizzas because the crew had like jammed the pizza, like took 3 hours to get there. And I was in back, manipulating this like ship. And when I come back out, there's nobody there. Right. And so I'm starting to walk to my car, and all of a sudden the guy walks up with all these pizzas. he just hands it to me and the first AD. And so we made up quick rules that, anybody that was going by that wasn't carrying, carrying a TV or a recorder or, new tennis shoes or something like that. If they weren't carrying anything, they got a pizza.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, well, it's what we. And then I got home and I just got in the door as I was driving up on the 405 to get to I lived up in Antelope Valley area, and as I was as I was leaving the LA Basin, there's a place where the road starts up and you can look back and you can see all over LA, and it was just smoke, pillars of smoke going up everywhere. And when I got home, my kids were just watching Reginald Denny get pulled out of a truck.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just interesting. This too shall pass.
Yes. Well, hopefully something will come out of it, rather than
I you know what? It always has.
Yeah.
At least a little movement forward has always come out of it. That's all we get is a little movement forward.
Yeah. Well, I remember I was in high school and I was in Tennessee actually, and I remember going to my friends invited me to protest Rodney King.
Right.
That was 90. What year was that? 91 probably. Anyway, but
right.
I remember going to a protest. I took my camera with me. I took some really good pictures. It was outside of a church. It was a group of people. It was mixed races. It was everybody there. And then it was kind of interesting when the George Floyd thing happened. There was protests here right across from right next to right on the Clearwater. Right. And so hundreds of people were out there. It was like a mile long of people. And my wife and I decided that we weren't going to join them. We were going to drive by and take my daughters with us so they could see,
Right.
And I was amazed by how many different races. It was mostly young people, and there were a few older people there. And there was even an old lady driving by that really caught my attention because I kind of wish I had my video camera with me. Because there's this old lady who's about 80 years old driving up the other way that we were driving. And she opened up her sunroof and she held up a sign that said "Black Lives Matter," and she was like making a face like that. But it was awesome, but I was amazed by the it was a mix of everybody, every age, and my daughter wasn't really sure. She's 6. She wasn't really clear on what was happening, so it was kind of a learning experience for her, I think.
It's been interesting because our neighbors here, now we've only lived here in Tennessee, where we live in, which is pretty close to Nashville. And this particular part of it is very rural. And so we're on 6 acres, and then there's another 5 acres next door. And his name's Isaac, and he's a preacher. Very the nicest older gentleman that you've ever met in your life. Only his family comes in constantly on this big house, and I'm telling you, he's got like 10 kids and and so many grandkids, and his grandkids are all over our property, and it's just this great mix. And what was really weird was watching the news and then going down and seeing my 4 granddaughters and anywhere between 8 and 12 of his children running around in the big chicken pen that we've got and collecting the chickens at night and putting them in the pen. Right. And it kind of took the edge off and kind of gave you hope.
Yeah. Well, I was shocked. Small places. I mean, come on, really?
Right. There you go. Well, yeah, the police out here actually marched with the protesters.
Oh,
so,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was cool.
Yeah, I
So-
keep trying to explain to people, like, yeah, I mean, my grandfather was a cop, and not every cop is bad.
Yeah,
you know, you
it's
can't
true.
generalize like that. And actually, most cops actually become cops because they want to help people. Really, is the bottom line.
I agree. There's two things that I mentioned on the web is that my mother was probation officer and all of her friends were cops, and here's just two things that I always thought to myself was that and I know that this is really hard, but I think that there tends to be a souring after 5 years on the streets.
Yeah.
And then that is exacerbated by the incredible strength of the unions.
Yeah.
The officers' unions are too powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
There can be no accountability anywhere. And I think that if we fix those two things, we might.
Yeah. But thank God for technology, though, like cell phones. I make it.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. The other thing is this is a world since 2005 or so. It's a world where no matter what you say, no matter what goes on, it's in a video. And the funny thing is before that, everybody was saying, well, you don't have any visual of that. Well, but now we do.
Right, exactly.
Now we do. Now what do you say? And now they say, well, video, picture is kind of misleading. Well, you can't have it both ways there, brother.
Right. Well, I want to see, speaking of COVID, like game shows and stuff, I was like thinking about how cool would it be if they did like, how they did the All in the Family show that they kind of recreated with,
right.
What if they did like a pandemic version? Like what would happen in the 70s if there was a pandemic and Archie Bunker had to wear a mask, like kind of like, retro shows, but make them like COVID related.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. And then I was thinking like, oh, what if you did like Pretty Woman with like, social distancing and wearing masks on the first date, that kind of thing. So, I think I can see it in The Simpsons doing something, or like Family Guy or something.
I think we better get off the air pretty quick here.
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
But I was thinking how cool would they should just embrace that. Like if I was in Hollywood right now, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to write a script that's related to the pandemic to where my actors can be socially distanced and they can wear their masks and,
Well, at least they have an entirely new, different subject, right?
Yes.
Okay, guys.
That was long.
This is definitely enough.
That's almost an episode in itself, just the COVID one.
Yeah, the COVID episode. Okay, guys. I'm going to end this one